Hey there everyone, this is Jeffrey with Killaskila Gaming and welcome back to Silent Hill F. Previously, I believe we completed the Dark Shrine section of the game and we have figured out that it's somewhat separate from what we've been experiencing here in town, and I was apparently correct that the creature, the monster in the fog was us. The us that's in the Dark Shrine, essentially. So, to the best of my knowledge, there are two of us, I guess, in some way. One of us has been experiencing Fogtown, the other experiencing the Dark Shrine. I'm not quite sure how that works. That would explain why our personalities are so different, though. I think we're in endgame territory. We're back in town. We are playing as ourselves from the Dark Shrine, and we are supposed to be heading back to our residence. So let's get to it and see what happens. Let's see, so we're just heading up. The last time we touched the doll, stuff happened. Oh look, they're loading us up again. I wonder what's around the corner. I'm really hoping some of this stuff carries over. I was saying that previously, but you know, it seems like we put a lot of work into like this leveling up system, and you know, and the fact that we can still keep doing it is, I don't know, maybe I've just been missing a lot of stuff. I probably have, but you won't be able to see your father or mother anymore. I really hate these things. Go down. Are you kidding me? Just thinking about the fact that the bodies aren't disappearing anymore, but we can soul siphon, of course. Yeah, stop. I don't care. What significance does the doll have then in the end? Admiring the wildlife, sorry. So we're still a ways away, right? Okay, while we're here, let's look for supplies as much as we can. It seems like things are popping up here and there, so I'm assuming they're not going to let us get out in the end without a boss fight, right? I don't know what they'd make us fight against. Unless it's against ourselves. The world is celebrating me? Because I'm the Foxo? I have mid-beast ability. So I really don't want to... There's this more. Oh, they can die then. Okay. I was kind of wondering about why the other one crumpled. I was like, did I just deal enough damage before it popped? I don't know if there's a way to tell which ones will yield enemies and which ones are just popping. Alright. I don't think that's enough for a level on anything. Yeah, see, we can still do more stamina. That's insane. Suppose we could save. Okay. Hopefully that video turned out okay, because I can't go back anymore. I said like video 12 yesterday. There's no way I'm going back, right? Yeah, that looks like it's clear. Unless there's an item, but... Here we go again. What significance do you play, my little dog? Other than, you know, them wanting to them wanting to be me to be more girly. That's probably all it's there for. Fine water. Yeah. What you got for me this time? You won't be able to stay as you are now. I'm not sure what that means, but okay. one is more hurt? I'm gonna assume you. Damage. Come on, I wasn't even in your vicinity, dude. Can I soul siphon first before we do this? Please, can I soul siphon first before we do this? Okay. Now let's do this. One more? Maybe two more? Not another one? Come on. They're starting to build up numbers. Come on, go down. This is quite beautiful, and it's a perfect time of day. We are at the golden hour, right? At least it looks like it. Sounded like somebody was here. I wonder if I can go... my house is further up, right? I wonder if we can still go and explore the place past my house. So when... Oh yeah, that's beautiful. When we were in the dark shrine, we changed our form, so I'm wondering why we changed back. I'm gonna keep on walking. I guess I can't. So this will be... I don't know. Path of Exultation. What the? We switched places? I thought she killed us. I thought we killed her. I don't know what I thought, man. This is something else. I think this is the gate we crossed when we first got here, right? I like that comparison. I thought that was a person at first. Where exactly are we heading? We're okay. Yeah, that's nice to have. Okay. As far as I can tell, we've had the same supplies throughout the game. The two of us. It's like I mean, we're not different people, right? Not in the true sense. It's not like we're, you know, identical twins or anything. We're the same person, but at least that's what my headcanon is telling me. This is quite beautiful.
通さないつもりか。上等だ。
Oh, the bodies are disappearing this time. Crap. It's not good. So we can't soul siphon, but doesn't look like they're coming back at least. Okay. So what are we doing here then?
また邪魔するか。気が済むまで血の海に沈めてやる。
Who are we talking to? Oh boy.
邪魔するな。どけ。
Oh boy. Crap, come on. Did I put the... I don't think I put the mirror on, did I? Can I anymore? Oh, wrong item. No. Not wrong item. Crap. I meant to put the mirror on. Oops. Gotcha. Maybe it's a good thing I kept it. Okay. Just you? There's a weapon over here. Sledgehammer. That's gonna be a slow one, huh? The axe is almost broken, so I don't have any repair kits. So who am I gonna have to face off against here? It's interesting because like we're playing as like two different versions of ourselves, and we also like cross worlds, but now we've flip-flopped them, so oh. Alright, it's not gonna be enough. Well, actually it might be enough for one. Yeah. Actually, wait, just in case. Okay. She's literally talking to herself, facing herself. I did make a comment at one point that this could be kind of like an not atonement. I did mention that possibility that this was atonement, but that we're confronting ourself in a manner of speaking. I wasn't meaning it this literally, but kind of wondering if those trophies we got were like for story progression or for choices. Both.
まさかまだ生き残っていようとは。
お姉ちゃんは所詮は向こう側の人間。私の気持ちなんてわからない。
落ち着いて。あなたがどうしてここにいるかわかる？
わからない。ここはどこ？ここは嫌。辛い。気持ち悪い。帰りたい。
それは何なの？あなたいつから飲んでるの？そんなに飲んで大丈夫なの？
全然大丈夫だよ。これを飲むと落ち着くから。
もうやめなさい。それを飲むのをやめて。
私に構わないで。これが全ての根源。お前は私の全てを奪った。ザクコもリンコもシュウも奪い、お父さんもお母さんも。私を返せ。奪った全てを返せ。
Oh my god, what am I doing? Oh no! Nagome! Oh, well that didn't look good, did it? Oh my god, stop. Can I run? Or do I have to fight? Wait, what? Oh my. No, get off me, get off me, get off me. Oh, no, 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 no. I'm stuck, I can't get... know if I actually need to fight them, but they're being a bit oppressive there. Just pills everywhere. Just take all the pills. You're taking them pills. Oh my god. Do I have to fight this one? Look, I agree with her. I just want to get out of here. Oh, this is messed up. No, get off me. Get out. Get out. I don't know where I'm going. I'm just running. No, not that way. Apparently. They're just red pills everywhere. I was actually... Earlier I was wondering about those red pills, if that was going to be really important. I can't remember what it said on the package, but I was starting to think maybe there's something with mental illness going on here. Potentially. They said pain, but I'm thinking either anxiety or like something like that maybe instead. Or like I said, maybe mental illness. Wait, come on, let's get out of here. Oh, there's pills everywhere. That's gotta be symbolic for something, right?
米川により県警本部、県道8号線にて当該事案の被疑者と思わしき女性に襲われた男性2名のうち1名は現在心肺停止の状態。
羽村町1より県警本部、一部被害者に使用された包丁ですが敷地内からは発見できず、被疑者は現在もこれを所持している可能性が高いと思われます。どうぞ。
県警本部から各局、女性被疑者は20代、花嫁装束、身長は 160cm 少々、常吉神宮より逃走中、凶器を所持している可能性が極めて高い。各局はくれぐれも慎重に対応されたし。
羽村町1から県警本部、被疑者は赤と白のカプセル状の薬のようなものを犯行時に断続的に服用していたとのことです。
県警本部より神楽町1、それは式場内で発見された正体不明のカプセル薬と同一のものか。どうぞ。
羽村町1から県警本部、被疑者が服用する際に口からこぼしたカプセル薬を敷地内から採取。
home to Roost. Thankful to be here. Wise researcher. I had quite a few trophies just for that. You can now create save data from the completed game. By beginning New Game Plus with data from the completed game, you can experience changes to the story and have the chance to fulfill specific conditions to unlock new endings. You will also be able to play on the hard difficulty setting, Lost in the Fog. Things carried over to New Game Plus, Faith, stat upgrades get good, non-puzzle documents and journal information obtained, omamori, and certain key items. Okay. I'll put it over first one, I think. Coming home to Roost. Drown in a bottomless pit of self. Really? Really? That was my ending. Hey everyone, future me here. After I had finished the game, I basically explained that I really didn't understand the ending, and I decided afterwards to read a synopsis of the story so that I could kind of give a better analysis of what I felt was going on in the game and what it meant. So, I want to start off by reading the synopsis, and it's just one that I pulled up on Wikipedia because they tend to be a little bit more direct and non-spoilery in the sense of interpretation. And the first part says, in the Coming Home to Roost ending, the only ending available on the first playthrough, Hinako's human self defeats her fox self and she rejects the marriage, but she begins panicking and overdosing on the red capsules. Then it goes on to say in the second part, it is later revealed that the events of the game were a psychotic episode induced by the red capsules, and Hinako is a woman in her 20s who is on the run for killing several people at her wedding ceremony. The first part is actually what threw me. I got the part up to where it says Hinako's human self defeats her fox self and I got that part. The part that threw me off was where it said she rejects the marriage. I had no idea that the arranged marriage concept here was applying to her. That threw me for a complete loop. I was like, where did this come from? I had no idea that was a part of the story. And there are 3 points that I was able to find in the game where it's indicated, and I was thinking about this mostly. I did not really look this up. The first was I remembered reading some documents throughout the game where it mentioned a family named Seneki. And Seneki, apparently, I think I'd read this somewhere when I was looking for the synopsis. The Fox Mask character was supposed to be a reflection of Seneki, the person that we were arranged to marry, essentially. And I thought the documents were kind of misleading in this sense because there are so many documents that I found throughout the story that talked about like diseases and other things that didn't really seem to relate to the story, at least not in a sense where it really made where a lot of the context was there for us to draw from it. It didn't really seem to relate to us in many cases, and maybe I just need to get all the documents to put that together, because I was kind of thinking about stuff where they were talking about disease and what it was doing to the people, and it just really didn't sound very realistic or anything like that. And so to me, I thought that part was kind of misleading, and I could understand for myself where I may have missed that. The second one, I think I missed out because of a cultural thing. So if you recall our Fox character, the furry version of our main character, she was wearing this really bright white kimono with kind of this head ensemble, and apparently that's an outfit that is meant for wedding ceremonies, for Japanese Shinto wedding ceremonies specifically. And I did not realize what she was wearing was a ceremonial outfit. I did not know what that was. And so when I saw that, the word that stood out to me that I found after I had finished the game and I was looking for stuff was Shiromuku. Apparently that's the name of the wedding ceremony outfit. And apparently that's what it was wearing when it was in the fog. So our fox self was wearing that Shiromuku, and you can see it when you go to like scenes where she took out the parents and where the arm would come out of the fog. There are times when you can see that outfit, or when we're fighting our other self. And so that one I think I missed mostly because I didn't know what it was. So if I had known, like I know what like a traditional wedding dress looks like in the United States, which is usually for, you know, your more, you know, like Roman Catholic weddings or things like that. Like I know what that looks like, but I was not aware of this, and I think that's why I missed out on it. Because of course Shinto has been like the common theme that we've seen in the game with the Inari statues and things like that. So I just missed out on that because I didn't know what it was. Now the one that was a little bit more obvious that I missed out on, because at this point I was kind of dumbfounded as to what happened, was if you go to the epilogue where it says, where it talks about the pills, they mention a wedding ceremony. So I was like, yeah, I guess you could assume that was for me, but I was like, the sister was married too, so I was like, I didn't know if that really, and the sisters played kind of a weird prominent role in this in a weird way. So that part also threw me off. And so now that I know that, I can give a better interpretation of how I feel about the ending, of what it might mean. The other thing that I was looking at, and this part I feel like was pretty obvious, was the red and white capsules. So like I said, in the later part of the description, it said it is later revealed that the events of the game were a psychotic episode induced by the red capsules. There was a point in the game where I started watching another playthrough and I started looking closely at the packet that Shu gave her, and I remember looking it up, I think it was in my game, to see what the packet said, and it said antipyretics on it. I was like, okay, well, an antipyretic by name is fever reducer, and more commonly known for most people as a kind of over-the-counter pain reliever for the most part. So you might think of like NSAIDs like aspirin, ibuprofen, and non-NSAID medications like acetaminophen, for instance. Those are really commonly, you know, associated with, you know, those are commonly given as like antipyretics, or again as over-the-counter pain relievers, which is what they're really used for in most cases. So that part kind of made sense to me. So my interpretation then, I was kind of looking at a few things. One, I was looking at Fogtown versus the Dark Shrine, and then I was looking at the plants have been really prominent in this, and this screen here is very beautiful, and I've made so many comments about the plants throughout this game that I was like, I have to draw that into this, my interpretation of what that means. And so to start off, I made some notes here, so if you see me looking over here, that's what I'm looking at. First, I wanted to kind of look at Fogtown. So Fogtown versus the Dark Shrine. So when we are in Fogtown, we are essentially, by comparison to ourselves, the underdog in the story. We are playing as I would say Hinako's true self, or Hinako being true to her own self. We are playing as the rebellious Hinako, the defiant one, the one that wants to be herself. And I would say probably from my interpretation, the more neurodivergent one, because she reminds me a lot of myself in that way. And we both kind of go against the societal norm in many cases, and don't blend well in with your kind of typical you know, what's the word? I'm saying neurodivergent, so some people call them normies, but so with your typical societal norms, I just don't fit in that sense, and I can see that she doesn't either, because she's being pushed into this role of, you know, you're a female, you have to act like a female, you have to fit into society as a female, you have to be what we want you to be. And the Fogtown version of her is the true self that is pushing back or rebelling against that, is kind of the way I see it. Meanwhile, we have this Dark Shrine Hinako, who is much more calm, passive, and subservient, and I would say that she's much more powerful. She is, like I said, subservient, obedient. She's kind of falling in line with Boxmask and the what's going on in that world. And I think this is kind of showing the side of her that is going along with the more conservative, traditional family values that we see in this story. And she's just kind of going along with the plan. So that's what the Dark Shrine, I think, represents. You see her, essentially murdering her friends in this world, and then becoming this Inari box creature, this furry, essentially. and she's falling in line with what's expected of her, essentially, that she's going along with the marriage. And in the end, of course, we face off and take her out, right? That's what the ending is essentially telling us. And so kind of adding into that, when I go back to Fogtown and I start thinking about the plants, I wanted to look into those a little bit more because, like I said, I've done some research on the plants. I was familiar with them already, at least a couple of them. And so if you look at most of the growth here, the one plant I kept bringing up was kudzu. And I'm going to stand by what I said about it. I think that's what the main part of the growth is supposed to be. Because kudzu is a very common plant in this part of the world, and it's also common, in pretty much all over the place because it's invasive. And I'm going to get into that, but kudzu is really common in China and Japan, and probably several other areas. And there's a variety called Chinese arrowroot and a variety called Japanese arrowroot, and those are different varieties of kudzu. And kudzu is a perennial vine, so perennial meaning that it grows year long and doesn't really fall into a cycle of growth. And it is a viney plant. And if you look at if you kind of see like the wires going across from the buildings here, and you can kind of see those vines hanging down with the leaves on them, that's very commonly what it looks like. And if you looked at it in the game, like at the ground where you see those big heavy roots, that's very common with these types of plants. So they're very deep rooted, and they tend to grow their vines, which kind of creep up on, they can grow on buildings, they can grow on masses of plants, they can grow up in trees and stuff. And they essentially will grow and essentially overgrow those plants because, one, they need a lot of sunlight. And so by overgrowing whatever's around them, because they are very fast growers, they can essentially block those plants from getting the light and steal it from themselves. And so I was kind of seeing kudzu as suffocating, trying to suffocate our characters in this, trying to suffocate Hinako and kind of force her into obedience is kind of the way I was looking at it. Because kudzu is well known in the United States as the vine that ate the South. It's so invasive that it just destroys other plant life. And another reason that I kind of fall back on this is that kudzu has it's a green plant, and so of course all the growth we've seen is red, but it has a really strong reflective property for infrared light. So if you were to film it or take pictures of it with infrared lenses, this is kind of what you would see. It looks very like pink to red. And so it's kind of an interesting plant in that sense. But that's the way I was kind of seeing this growth as kind of, trying to hold her into submission, essentially suffocate her into going along with the plan. And a couple of other plants that pop up in this, I think were more ornamental in this case. Of course, you have the sakura, which are the cherry blossoms from the Japanese cherry trees, which is really common. Kind of really thematically common, I think, in the culture and the country in general, because they're really beautiful plants and they're very commonly found in that country. And usually most of the time they look just like a kind of dead plant until they bloom, in which case they're very, very beautiful plants. But their flowers sometimes have that pinkish to reddish coloration. And then there's another plant that I've seen a couple sources mentioning here, which I was not familiar with. You can kind of see it in the bottom right corner. It kind of looks like little spider legs coming out. And you can see it throughout this, but if you look in different areas, you'll see those little kind of like like fingers curling in. Those are called spider lilies. And so spider lilies and sakura, they're not prominently red plants, but their flowers can be. So spider lilies have really, really red looking flowers, and cherry blossoms, I think they can be white, but they can also look very pinkish and red too. So the color palette is just beautiful. But I think that's kind of what the plant growth is supposed to resemble here in the story, is it's kind of like our fox self is using this to kind of force ourselves into submission and to go along with this plan. So that's kind of my way of interpreting the story. Let me know what you think. So I did not look that stuff up other than the synopsis, which I specifically read that stuff off. Those are my thoughts, on what this all means. Now the monsters I'm not going to pull into the mix here because I was more heavily focused on the plants, and I have not done any research on the monsters. The plants I already knew, and of course I'm a biologist, so that's my forte, right? Anyways, those are my thoughts. Now, the other thing I wanted to talk about, and this I actually did somewhat address in my original recording, but I wanted to readdress it with bullet points so I could be a little bit more direct, is kind of my review of the game. And I want to start off with the negatives. There are 3 main negatives, and I'm going to kind of go over my list of positives. And if you've been watching me from the start, you probably know how I feel about these things already, so shouldn't be any major surprise. There are 3 major things in this game that I did not like. You can probably guess the first. Combat. I absolutely detested the combat in this game. It was terrible. It felt like every time I hit something, I was bashing like hard plastic objects, and I just did not like that effect. It was really off-putting. And I am thinking of putting out a short where I show myself getting frustrated, but I don't know if that's going to be interesting to watch. So I might just scrap that, but it felt tedious, boring, frustrating, and it really made me dislike a lot of the monsters, which I didn't necessarily dislike before I started fighting them. And so I think the combat in this was just the worst thing in the entire game, and I wish they would just do away with it. It felt like I was playing Silent Hill Homecoming, which is one of the few Silent Hills that after I finished it, I put it down and never touched it again. And I will say, I watched somebody play Silent Hill Homecoming, and I had a completely different experience. I actually really enjoyed the game after that, because I didn't have to play it and deal with that. So, getting rid of the combat would be a big positive factor for me in this game. And I will say, I've said this before, I'm going to say it again, if I want to play a game with good combat, I am never going to pick up a Silent Hill game for that, and I'm probably never going to pick up a horror game for that, unless it's a horror game specifically designed to be a combat game. My second component on that, you can probably guess because it goes along with the combat, is the HUD, which again was tedious. Silent Hill has never had an HUD function in the games. The HUD for Silent Hill has been going to the menu and looking at your health meter, because there is one. Or in Silent Hill 2, for instance, in the remake, they just made your clothes get a little bit bloody. And if it gets really extreme, you'd see blood around the screen, which is fine. I'm fine with that. So not only did they add a health bar in this, they added a sanity meter, they added a stamina meter, they added extra meters for building up for the wolf beast stage and for like charging up your weapons and your weapon durability. And I was like, come on, like really? It just felt like tedious management after a point, and I hated it. I don't want HUDs in my games to begin with, and I really don't want them in a Silent Hill game. I like dynamic HUDs where you pull it out just to see your menu and it goes away after that. I don't want to see it again after that. So, big down part for me. I don't want to see that. I want to see the beauty of the environment. And I would generally turn off HUDs in games when I have the option if it didn't make it so dang hard. The third thing, and I did bring this up early on in the game, and apparently there might be some relevance here, but was relevance of this to Silent Hill. It didn't feel like this had any connection or relation to the Silent Hill franchise whatsoever, other than imagery and some thematic stuff. It really didn't feel like, it felt like this should be separated as its own IP. It feels like a cash grab to me. Now, I did read, if you look at the wiki article, and I don't know how true this is, but it said something about this being a spin-off, and if that's true, fine, I'll accept that. That's okay. But this doesn't feel like it has any relevance to the franchise, and I do not like that. Now, somebody online, I saw something pop up in forums that apparently those capsules may be the relevance to the rest of the franchise. I think it's unlikely, but if it's in the game, I'll find it eventually with the trophies. Apparently, what might be in those capsules is White Claudia, which would tie this to the series. I think it's a weak tie, but I guess at least they're trying in some case. I think a better tie-in would have been like the short message where they built on the idea of the Silent Hill phenomena, I think it was called. I think I called it the paradox earlier on, but I'm pretty sure it was the Silent Hill phenomena. And I think if they built on that, I would be much better off with this, because it gives you a lot more openness as to what you can do with it. And if they had just tied it in a little bit to Silent Hill in some way, I think that would have been nice. Okay, so on the flip side, I wanted to end this off on a positive note. So I wanted to go through a list of bullets that I made on what I liked about the game. First of all, I really liked Fogtown for its visuals. The environments and the color palette, especially here, you can see it, is absolutely gorgeous, and I don't think that's any surprise. I think it's really pretty. I think the plant growth is really awesome. I love the chase scenes. I loved the school component. I loved being at the our home residence, and I like the characterizations in this. I felt like the story building side of this was really interesting, and I liked those aspects of it. I love the cutscenes and everything. So, looking at this screen here, yeah, major props to the development on this. This was amazing. When you look at the Dark Shrine, if you take away kind of the stuff that the Dark Shrine becomes, I first felt like it was really calming and beautiful in a weird way. That we're in this like dark environment. You see those like lanterns all over the place. It was just a really peaceful place. It was quiet. You got the light to walk around with, so you could actually see things a little bit. Again, it had its creepy moments, but overall, I actually really liked the Dark Shrine because I felt like I was really calm until the fighting really picked up. In addition, one thing I really liked, and I initially was a little bit thrown off by some of the stuff that came off after it, but I'll talk about this. There were those absolutely disgusting scenes in the shrine where we were becoming the fox version of ourselves. Those were so cool. Those were so good. I was like, they actually made me want to turn away, and I'm like, that's impressive. I actually like contemplated putting some like content warning on for those because I was like, those were kind of pushing me a little bit the wrong way, and I like that. The whole turning into the fox thing was a little bit weird. Not very Silent Hill if you ask me, but it was intriguing. And when you go into the Dark Shrine, I liked that you had a pole arm for most of it, or you had the fox arms for the combat stuff. Those were kind of nice. I did like those. So weapon wise, those were kind of cool. So those are the things that I really liked about the game. And I don't really want to give a rating number wise because I don't like doing that, and I could go any which way about this. But as a generalized horror game, I thought this was really cool. Something new, something that could be worked out on a little bit. Maybe a 7 out of 10, 8 out of 10 kind of situation. But if you look at it as a Silent Hill game, I'm like, it's losing me on that one. I don't think this really fits well in the Silent Hill franchise. And kind of just some ending thoughts. Like I said, I really feel like this was a beautiful horror game, minus the major drawbacks in game. If those things were taken out, I would say this would probably be a solid 10 out of 10 for me if those were fixed or worked out in some way. I'm concerned about the replay value of this. I think it might be a little bit impacted by the difficulty settings because I noticed that there's I didn't know I was on it said I was on the lowest difficulty setting. I didn't know that, or maybe there's a lower one that I'm just not aware of. But because I was watching somebody play and it seemed like they were taking enemies out a lot easier than I was, and I realized mine said it was on story, but I thought to me it seemed like I was having a harder time with stuff than the person I was watching. And I was like, I don't know, maybe I started playing it. I don't know what it was. So I was like, I thought maybe I was set on a harder difficulty, but I don't think I was. And like I said, not much of a Silent Hill game as far as that goes. And my comparison for that would be like, the reason I don't like applying scores is because if you look at my history with Silent Hill, I love Silent Hill and Silent Hill 2. Beyond that, I start getting some games I like, some I don't like. And for instance, Silent Hill 3, it seems to be one that's liked by a lot of people, but I'm not a big fan of it. I felt like Silent Hill 3, I felt like it was kind of a waste of time. Most of the gameplay was just a waste of time to me. It felt like I was walking home from the mall for most of the game, and to me it just made me think, why are we doing this? Whereas a lot of people tend to like it, so that was just my take on it. Meanwhile, like Silent Hill Downpour, a lot of people didn't care for it, but I absolutely loved Silent Hill Downpour. I thought it was amazing. I liked what they were trying to do with it. The performance wasn't great, but I mean, it's a game that has actually aged rather well comparatively for what you would have expected out of it. And then you look at games like Homecoming. A lot of us didn't like Homecoming. I didn't like Homecoming, but until I actually watched people play Homecoming, it was a super tedious game that became like really interesting when I started to not have to play it myself. So I am looking forward to doing the Collectible runs on this, and I'm really looking forward to seeing the other endings because I have a feeling there's going to be a lot more to this once I figure out what else this game has to offer, because there are apparently like 2 boss fights I have not seen in this game at least. So the other endings, I'm curious to see what they have to offer. So next time, which may not be right away, I'm probably going to do a Collectible run at some point, and we'll see if we can find everything and what that changes in the end. And I'm probably going to do similar to what I did with Silent Hill 2, where I do it as a full playthrough again. It'll probably go a lot quicker, but I'm going to do it as a full series again, just like I did this one. So with that being said, let's close things out for this. Thank you all for joining, and I will see you all later.